all you need to know about Agile project management to make you better than 99% of the Agile project managers or Scrum Masters out there in the market. And a must-watch for you as well if you are preparing for the PMP or the PMI-ACP certification exams. Let's get going. So we will divide this entire video into 7 easy to understand sections, okay? So make sure you understand these 7 key concepts of Agile project management by watching this video till the very end, okay? Because that's what will make you stand out from the crowd of project managers who sort of claims does Agile projects, but let's be honest, doesn't even have a basic understanding of the Agile fundamentals. And yes, these 7 topics are the core Agile topics for the PMP and the PMI-ACP certification exams as well. Right, so let's start with the first fundamental, understanding the Agile mindset versus Agile methodology. Now this is where most organizations get it completely wrong from the very beginning, okay? See, Agile, it is not just a methodology, okay? It's a mindset. It's a way of thinking about work collaboration and value delivery. However, what most organizations do is that they implement Agile frameworks or tools such as Scrum or Kanban, thinking that's enough. So they conduct daily stand-ups, they create sprint backlogs, they even use Jira boards, all the fancy Agile tools, however, still operating with a waterfall mindset under all of that fancy stuff. So here is the difference. Doing Agile means you are following the processes, the ceremonies and the tools, okay? However, being Agile means you have embraced the core principles. For example, responding to change over following a plan, welcoming feedback over defending your original design, and delivering value incrementally rather than waiting for perfection. I have seen project teams where they religiously conduct all the Agile ceremonies. However, when a stakeholder requests a change, the team pushes back saying that's not in scope, or we have already planned for the sprint, okay? So that's not Agile thinking, right? That's waterfall thinking disguised within Agile vocabulary. So the true Agile mindset means that you embrace uncertainty, welcome change as an opportunity to deliver better value, and focus on outcomes rather than rigidly following a plan. Make sense? Right, so moving on to the second fundamental, the 4 core values of the Agile Manifesto. Now these 4 values are literally the foundation of everything Agile stands for. And if you don't understand these properly, you will never truly grasp what Agile is all about, okay? So the first value, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Now this means we value team collaboration and human communication more than blindly following rigid processes, or let's say getting obsessed with the perfect project management software. Just as an example, the second value, working software over comprehensive documentation. However, please note that this doesn't mean zero documentation, right? It really means we prioritize delivering functional outcomes over creating hundreds of pages of specifications that nobody has the time to read. Third value, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So instead of defining everything upfront in a fixed contract and then refusing any changes, we work closely with customers throughout the project, adapting as we learn more about the customers or the end users' actual needs, okay? Fourth value, responding to change over following a plan. This is perhaps the most misunderstood value, okay? So listen carefully. So it does not mean that we don't plan, okay? It means we accept that plans will change as we gain new information, and that is perfectly fine. Now, here is something critical. Notice that the manifesto says over following a plan, and it doesn't say that instead of following a plan, right? So we still need processes, we still need documentation, contracts and plans in agile projects, okay? And yes, we need a plan for managing changes as well. However, still being flexible enough to adapt. So we value flexibility and adaptability over sticking to a plan which is set in stone. Make sense? All right, now let's talk about the third fundamental topic, iterative and incremental delivery. Now this is what fundamentally separates Agile from traditional waterfall approaches, okay? See, in waterfall project management, you plan everything upfront, at least you try to. For example, you plan the entire scope, and you plan the delivery, and you plan the communication, and you plan everything that culminates into one big bang delivery in the end. However, the problem with this approach is that by the time you deliver, 6 months or a year has passed, and often what you have built is no longer what the customer actually needs, right? So this is especially true for time-sensitive product delivery. For example, an application which will only be relevant around Christmas or Easter for gifting purposes, or let's say a website which will cover real-time election news, right? So the timing of the launch of the product for these kind of applications are extremely critical, right? Because think about it, what good will a Christmas gifting application be if it is launched after Christmas is over, right? So Agile flips this completely. Instead of delivering everything at once, you deliver value in small, frequent increments. Each iteration typically lasts around 1 to 4 weeks, and it produces a working piece of functionality that stakeholders can actually see, touch, and provide feedback on. And here is really why it's so powerful, okay? Firstly, it drastically reduces the risk. If something goes wrong, you discover it in 2 weeks, okay? Not 6 months. Secondly, it creates regular feedback loops. Customers can course correct early rather than waiting until the end to say that, oh, this isn't what I wanted, right? Thirdly, it accelerates time to value. So instead of waiting a year for everything delivered at once, you start delivering usable features within weeks. So moving on to the fourth fundamental topic, MVP and MMF, which stands for minimum viable product and minimum marketable feature. Now, this is where agile thinking really challenges traditional project management approaches, okay? See, in traditional projects, or let's say waterfall projects, we tend to build the entire product with all of its bells and whistles before releasing anything to the customer or the end users, right? However, Agile asks a fundamentally different question, and the question is, what is the absolute minimum? I repeat, absolute minimum we can build that still delivers genuine value to end users or customers, because that is your MVP, the smallest version of your product that solves a real problem and can be released to get a feedback from the end users. So for instance, if you are building a project management tool, your MVP might just be task creation, dependencies, and assignment. That's it. Nothing fancy, no dashboards, no reports, just the core functionality that delivers immediate value to get tested whether it's working or not. MMF, or minimum marketable feature, on the other hand, takes this further by identifying the smallest marketable increment of functionality. Think of it as a minimum feature set that the customers would actually pay for or adopt, okay? Because the MVP might not always have a revenue generation aspect. So here is why this matters, okay? Building an MVP or MMF first allows you to test your assumptions quickly, gather real user feedback, and avoid wasting months building features nobody actually wants, okay? So I've seen organizations spending millions building comprehensive solutions only to discover that users needed something completely different, right? So Agile in its core principle says that deliver the minimum viable value first, learn from it, and then iterate. Okay, makes sense? Now let's talk the fifth fundamental, Agile ceremonies and events. See, this is where many organizations get ceremonial without understanding the actual purpose behind these meetings or events, okay? So the key Agile ceremonies in a Scrum-driven project include sprint planning, where the team decides what they'll deliver in the upcoming sprint and how they will do it, daily stand-ups, which are quick 15-minute check-ins where team members share progress, shares plans and blockers, okay? Not status reporting sessions for managers, right? Moving on, sprint review, okay? It is where the team demonstrates working functionality to stakeholders and gathers feedback from them. So this isn't a formal presentation, okay? It's a collaborative working session. Next you have sprint retrospective, is where the team reflects on what went well, what didn't, and how they can improve. And this is absolutely critical for continuous improvement. Finally, backlog refinement, where the team reviews and prepares upcoming work items, ensuring that they are ready for the future sprints. However, here is the trap most organizations fall into. They conduct these ceremonies religiously, no doubt about it, okay? However, without understanding their purpose or the core intent. So daily stand-ups become status report meetings, sprint reviews become PowerPoint presentations followed by Q&As, retrospectives become complaint sessions and cribbing sessions without actionable improvements. So if you're liking the video guys, please press the like button and subscribe to this channel. It helps me to understand that you value such content and motivates me to prepare more such videos like this for you. Moving on to the sixth fundamental, customer collaboration and feedback loops. Now this is where Agile truly differentiates itself from traditional project management approaches. See, in waterfall projects, customer involvement typically happens at 2 points. At the beginning, when gathering requirements, and at the end, during user acceptance testing. So everything in between is radio silence. The problem? By the time customers see the final product, it's often too late to make any meaningful changes, or it is very, very expensive to drive any changes to the finished product, right? So Agile completely transforms this model. Customers or the representatives, often called product owners, are continuously involved throughout the entire project lifecycle. They are participating in sprint planning, attending sprint reviews, providing feedback on working increments, and adjusting priorities based on what they are learning. And here is why it is so powerful, right? Regular feedback loops prevent costly mistakes or costly rework. So if you are building something customers don't actually need, you discover it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? Not 6 or 7 months. It also builds trust and shared ownership, so the customers feel invested in the outcome because they have been part of the journey. So the key insight here, Agile treats customers as partners in product discovery, okay? Not just recipients of a product delivery. Make sense? Finally, let's address the seventh and perhaps the most overlooked fundamental, self-organizing teams and servant leadership. Now, this is where most Agile transformations fail to integrate it within their philosophy, right? And organizations don't even realize it. See, traditional project management operate on command and control principles, okay? So the project manager, who is the supreme power, let's say, tells the team what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. Team members just execute instructions precisely and clinically. However, in Agile, it requires a fundamental shift in this power dynamics, right? So in Agile, teams are self-organizing. So this means the team collectively decides how to accomplish the work, who does what, and how to solve problems. So the team owns the how part of it, while the product owner, who is the customer interface of the product, owns the what, okay? The project manager or the Scrum Master becomes a servant leader in driving these teams and not a task master. So unlike waterfall projects, the role of the project manager in Agile project takes a backseat. And here is what servant leadership actually means. Your primary job is removing impediments that block the team's progress. Your primary job is to facilitate collaboration, and your primary job is to shield the team from organizational politics and sort of any kind of noises, to create an environment where people can do their best work, okay? So you are not directing, unlike waterfall projects, you are enabling, right? However, on the other side of the spectrum, most organizations can't let go of the control, right? Managers still dictate solutions, micromanage tasks, and treats team members as resources to be allocated than professionals who could be empowered. So this mindset shift is the hardest part of Agile, you know, and without it, everything else is just like a theater, which is completely superficial and makey, right? So that's it. Those are the 7 key principles of Agile project management you need to learn to deliver any Agile project successfully. Please like the video and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon in the next one.